How are you doing, you wonderful nerds? Scott here, and yeah, I know that Deathstroke isn't really a pirate, but this is the only eye patch I could find on short notice. So, I guess I didn't really need the earring. That part was just for me. Anyway, I'm sure we all are pretty familiar with the DC Comics assassin Slade Wilson AKA Deathstroke, an incredibly capable fighter despite him having only one eye. But just how much of an effect would this cyclopean vision have on his ability to fight Batman or Green Arrow? Could Deathstroke realistically go toe-to-toe against the Dark Knight or the Emerald Archer? Or would his limited vision provide challenges that not even he could overcome? That is the question that Scott will attempt to answer today. And no, I'm not talking in the third person, I'm talking about a different Scott from the channel Figgin Boom Toys. He makes incredible cosplay parkour videos and has first-hand experience with what it's like to maneuver in Deathstroke's costume, eye patch and all. Take it away, Scott.
Oh hi, Slade Wilson here, mercenary. Just kidding, I'm actually Scott from the YouTube channel Friggin Boom Toys, and I've come to NerdSync today to talk about having one eye. Now, I don't really have one eye. This eye patch is just a prop, a part of my Deathstroke costume, and it's the part that I most look forward to taking off because having one eye really screws with my vision. But in the DC universe, Slade Wilson really does have one eye, and he's one of the most formidable fighters there is. In fact, when Slade Wilson got put into a younger body of someone with two eyes, he found that he could no longer fight that well at all. He'd become so accustomed to one eye that two eyes actually made him worse. But is that possible? Can someone with one eye become a better fighter than someone with two? Well, Deathstroke has different abilities and super abilities depending on the exact version of him that you're talking about. So to begin with, let's ground this question in the real world. What actually happens to you when you lose an eye? The first thing that probably popped into your head is that you lose all your depth perception, but that isn't really true. You do lose something called binocular disparity. Now, binocular disparity is when your brain takes the slightly different images from both your eyes and combines them into one new three-dimensional image. You know when you put your finger in front of your face and you blink both eyes and your finger moves? It's that thing. Now, you obviously can't do that with one eye, but there are lots of other cues your brain can search for to figure out how far away things are. For example, if you see a car and it appears to be that big, well, you know cars aren't that big, so it must be far away. Duh. It seems stupidly simple, but these stupidly simple cues are what your brain uses every day to help perceive depth. Take a look at this crappy image I made on Microsoft Paint. Take a look at the red person's limbs. They're in front of the blue person, so the red person must be closer. These two people are much smaller, so they must be further away. These two lines are parallel, but in one direction they appear to be getting closer, so in that direction they must also be getting further away. There's also motion parallax, where things that are further away appear to be moving slower than things that are close to us. There are tons of clues like this that you still can use with one eye. So there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is binocular disparity is probably the strongest tool we have for measuring depth. So you won't lose your depth perception altogether, but it's going to take a pretty strong blow. The good news is binocular disparity is really only helpful for when stuff is kind of close up. If Deathstroke was doing any mid to long range shooting or sniping, well, having one eye wouldn't be that much of a problem. It's the close-up combat where a lack of depth perception is going to start to cause you real challenges, having to strike or more importantly block unidentified shapes coming at you with speed. You're in trouble. I've done a bunch of videos on my channel where I test a Deathstroke sword against various objects, and getting an accurate hit with only one eye is very difficult. It is something that you can get better at though. You can train your brain to more intuitively read those cues that you can only use with one eye, and you can get back to functioning at relatively normal levels. There is another thing you lose though when you have one eye, and in my opinion it's going to affect your close-up combat even more. It's peripheral vision. Now, peripheral vision, for those that don't know, is basically the stuff you see in the corner of your eye. Try this. Stare straight ahead and stretch out your arms. You can still see your fingers wiggling around, right? Now, if someone were to write something on my hand, well, I couldn't read it, but that's not what peripheral vision is for. The point of peripheral vision is to catch motion and react to it, but that's a lot harder with one eye when you lose up to 20% of it. Try this. Put only one hand out this time and close the eye that's closest to it. Experiment with where it disappears. For me, it's about here, which means anything in this area is a dead zone. What if this was Batman's fist flying at my face? He could catch me off guard and probably knock my head straight off of my body. Now, losing peripheral vision is really hard to adapt to. With depth perception, losing your binocular disparity sucks, but there are other cues that you can learn to use more intuitively. It's not the same though with peripheral vision. There's not much you can do to this eye to make it miraculously be able to see through the bridge of your nose and catch all the things in the dead zone caused by your missing eye. In another video ago on my channel, I wore my Deathstroke suit of armor to an obstacle course training gym, and for me, a lack of peripheral vision caused way more problems than a lack of depth perception. When it comes to parkour, you're constantly using your peripheral vision to monitor the obstacles that are coming up, and with one eye, that was really tricky. Take this wall, for example. I've cleared it dozens of times without the armor with relative ease. But with only one eye, I found it much harder to keep an eye on my foothold and the upcoming handhold at the same time. I could only really focus on my feet, and by the time I shifted my head to where it needed to be, I saw that I was not as close to the handhold as I originally thought. And I fell over a lot. You can watch that full video on my channel, cross promotion. Anyway, there are some ways around a loss of peripheral vision. In one interview I read, a woman with one eye talked about this kind of constant, slow head sweep that she does that allows her to see things on both sides. Now, we never actually see Deathstroke do this, although it would be a hard motion to kind of show in the panels of a comic, so maybe he is constantly doing it and no one mentions it for fear of getting shot. There are other weird things your brain can do to try and compensate for a missing eye. One study described a man whose brain would stretch the vision he did have to try and fill in the vision he didn't have, so things that were square would appear as a rectangle to him. Other people with one eye talk about a kind of phantom limb situation where they begin to get a very strong feeling that their good eye is actually in the middle of their head, which of course causes them to misjudge their clearances and constantly bump into things. And despite all these differences, people with one eye live relatively normal lives. But Deathstroke doesn't really live a normal life, does he? He travels the world with a sword, fighting superheroes and killing people. With all the disadvantages of having one eye, could Deathstroke really become that good of a martial artist? Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously he is, because we see it time and time again, but is that realistic or believable? Would Deathstroke's super reflexes and super strength really be enough to cancel out all the disadvantages of having one eye? Let me know in the comments. Hey, big thanks to NerdSync for having me on to talk about Deathstroke. Want to know a little secret? I didn't bother to put on the bottom half of the costume. I'm just wearing shorts down here. If you like this video, consider heading over to my channel. I'm kind of like NerdSync with slightly less science and slightly more cosplay. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Thanks so much, Scott. I think I speak for all of us when I say, go put some pants on, dude! Go check out his channel, Friggin Boom Toys, for more awesome cosplay videos. If you didn't know, YouTube is kind of cracking down on smaller channels' ability to make money, and Scott's videos are too good to fall victim to YouTube's dumb changes. So you can find his channel linked in the description down below, or just click or tap right here to see him attempt a parkour obstacle course in the full Deathstroke costume. It is endlessly entertaining. I will see you wonderful nerds next week for another video that explores the history, science, philosophy, and hidden meanings of your favorite comic books and superheroes. My name is Scott, reminding you to read between the panels and grow smarter through comics. See ya.